This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. I want to tell you that there's a considerable amount of truth in the so-called Great Replacement theory. That's a current right-wing fetish, obsession, and it goes something like this: that white people, males, Christians, and sometimes other categories are being replaced in American culture, society, and economy. And that instead of them, jobs and benefits and privileges are going to be given instead to women, non-whites, non-Christians. You get the picture. The extreme right wing and the not so extreme right wing likes this theory. And I understand why. Because there has been a replacement, but it's not the one they're describing. It's the one they don't want you or anyone else to understand, and so they've substituted their own version of replacement theory. Here's the replacement that actually happened. Over the last half centuries, roughly from the 1970s to now, big capitalist corporations have decided that their best strategy for making money under these current conditions is to, replace expensive workers with alternatives to expensive workers. So let's be clear. Who were the expensive workers? They were overwhelmingly male, white, Christian Americans who, over the last 100 years, through many strikes and struggles, particularly in and with the labor movement, unions, were able to get decent wages. And when you get decent wages, you become a marked person, because the incentive in capitalism is to get around, to get away from high-cost workers and to replace them with something else. There are three basic replacements. Number one, automation. You replace these high-cost workers with machines. Number two, relocate production out of the United States to where wages are much lower. You know, China, India, Brazil, and all of that. And number three, you can replace high-cost workers that are Native Americans by bringing poor immigrants in who are desperate and will work for a little less. Capitalists everywhere in the world use whichever of those mechanisms are available. And if all three are, they do. And they do it to make more profits. Nobody is holding a gun to their head. No one requires them to substitute machines or to go to China or to hire immigrants. They do it because it's profitable. That's the reason. Now, the problem is when you do that, you make problems for the people that are replaced, who are particularly higher paid, white, male, Christians in the United States. They become bitter, angry, desperate, furious about being replaced, which they have been by automation, number one, by relocation of jobs overseas, number two, and the very distant and much less important third one, immigration. The right wing arrives to prevent the bitterness and anger of the replaced white, male, Christian workers from turning against the capitalists who did all this to them, whose profit is what drives the whole process. The right wing is there to make sure that doesn't happen. The working class of white, male Christians shouldn't turn against capitalism. So you got to give them a scapegoat. You got to give them somebody else to blame their replacement on. And that's what they've done. Like right-wingers do throughout the history of capitalism, they're performing their assigned function. Divert, deflect the anger of those being replaced, so that they should be angry at the Democratic Party as if it had the power to do these things, which it didn't. To get angry at China as if it's responsible for the decisions of private capitalist American corporations to move to China. They don't have the power to do that either. Or, the worst of it all, blame the desperately poor immigrants from Central America who come here looking for a better life like immigrants have for centuries. Blame them somehow for being replaced. No, they're doing a good job, because guess what? If you look at the right-wing propaganda, it very carefully avoids ever mentioning that the big capitalists are the problem, that the big profit drive of capitalism is the problem. No. Not from them. They know where their money is coming from. They know who their major donors are. Their job is to keep the capitalists safe, and that's what their replacement theory does. Now, you might wonder, why don't the Democrats tell the story the way it is truly to be told? That it's capitalism that's the problem. It's capitalism that has replaced the high-paid workers with machines, with cheap overseas workers, and with immigrants. And the answer is the Democratic Party is Republican light. It's dependent on the same capitalist donors. As Ms. Pelosi told us, we're all capitalists now, speaking of herself. Yes, we are. And that's why the Democratic Party seems as weak and as lame in what it does. Yes, it speaks up for immigrants and women and non-whites, those that the right wing targets. But by supporting them without explaining what's going on, they come off as weak, as supportive, and they create the basis for the right wing to say all the Democrats care about is getting the votes of the people we scapegoat. The reality is we have no one, neither Republicans nor Democrats, willing to say, yeah, there's been a replacement, but no, it's not the fault of those you're targeting. You don't have the courage, you extreme right-wingers, to point the finger at where the problem lies. You long ago sold out to the donors, the capitalists, the wealthy, who keep this system going, who make the profits by replacing any workers who get a high wage sooner or later by someone who gets a low one. That's how capitalism works. If interventions like these on topical issues of the day, like the so-called replacement theory, strike you as something that ought to be part of the national conversation, then please partner with us. Share this video. Friends, co-workers, family, get it around, extend our reach. That's what we do. That's what we ask your partnership in doing. And if you can help us financially to pay for all of this, well, of course, that will be appreciated as well. Thank you.